Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this first look at Engage Dallas 2026. In a split second, we'll introduce my esteemed colleagues here that are here to talk a little bit about the key conversations that will happen and that matter at Engage Dallas. But before we kick into it, so that everybody can get settled in front of their computers, we like to do icebreakers and all that good stuff. So please do put in the comments chat where you're checking in, where you're viewing our LinkedIn Live from, and depending upon where in the world you are, what is filling that mug of yours, whether it's tea or coffee or some other. We always like to know that that there's real humans out there. So as I said, we will do a bunch of content discussion, and to take us through those discussions, joining me, I'm Mark Fissel, head of events here at Everest Group. Really thrilled that we are about to embark on our third Engage Dallas this coming October. And so I would love the rest of the folks joining me here are the conference chairs who have been phenomenal in helping build the programming for the conference, and would love to have them introduce themselves. So Rohit, over to you, please.
Thanks, Mark. Pleased to be here with all of you. Rutashu Agarwal, partner with the firm. I'm based here in our London office. Mark, I'm joining with a very crisp bottle of still water, and still early evening for me to try anything else. But amazing. It's been 4 years since we got to started planning Engage. So I can't wait to pack my bags and get to Dallas in a few weeks. And for those who don't know me, I lead the GBS practice for the firm, and also parts of our business in EMEA region. So look forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Rohit. Amy, how about you? Where are you checking in from?
All right, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area today. Lovely morning. It's 9 a.m., so I finished my coffee. I'm well into the day. I've got water. I've got my Diet Coke lined up. We've got vanilla Coke Zero today. We're going a little crazy on the flavors. Whatever's on sale at Safeway, right? I'm a procurement person, so I go for the good deals. I lead our sourcing and vendor management service line, as well as working with other function leaders in adjacent areas like IT and finance and vendor management. Very excited for this third Dallas Engage, and what are we on, our seventh, eighth, ninth event? Mark knows the count because he's got them like tree circles, right? Dog ears. Really excited. We have such a great lineup. So great to be here and to chat with people about what we're going to do.
I also love, before we turn it to Deborah, I also love, folks, you know that we're live. We just had a bunch of product placements from Amy in terms of where she shops, her drinks of choice.
All right.
Good to know.
I expect a free place.
Yeah. And certainly, last but not least, Deborah, please introduce yourself.
Deborah Copps. I'm an executive advisor to Everest Group on all things GBS. Dialing in from Alexandria, Virginia. It's late morning for me, and I'm on my 5th cup of tea, and it is not ketchup in here. But excited for the conference. One of the things about this conference, amongst other very valuable content conferences in the marketplace, is that this conference is research-based. So the real life stories are actually balanced with some very rigorous research, and much of the research, especially some of the research I'm involved with, is really looking at the future. So for those of you in the audience who want to hear case studies, but also want to start to think about what's happening and looking forward, this is a great conference to attend.
And certainly made stronger, as you just mentioned, Deborah, not only by your input and guidance on the agenda, but it is a research-based event. On the next slide, we'll cover a couple of housekeeping announcements, and then we'll get into some actual substantive conversation with the three of you. The conference itself is October 5th, 7th in Dallas. We're going to talk a little bit about the theme and how we got there. But if you are a leader in strategic sourcing, vendor management, global business services, IT services within your company, or broader shared services within your company, you are somebody who should be attending Engage Dallas. And if this is your first time hearing about the event, please don't hesitate to reach out to the events team here at Everest Group, or your Everest Group client director to talk to you a little bit about this event and how you can get there. We do show some pricing there on the screen. For those of you attending that are interested in attending, we have a $200 off offer. I think the QR code has just popped up on your screen there. For anybody that would like that's attending this discussion with Deborah, Rohit, Amy, and myself today, please go ahead and click that QR code to register. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what this event is set up for. And again, I'll mention the theme of the conference. The theme of the conference is the execution curve. And really what we're focused on in the programming that Deborah, Rohit, Amy, and the rest of our colleagues have helped influence and that our external speakers will bring to bear is about moving beyond pilots. Not just pilots and AI. This is not an AI conference. Looks like we lost Deborah. She'll be back, I'm sure. This is not just an AI conference. By the way, we're live, everybody, right? Technical things happen. People accidentally click certain things. It's about the moving beyond pilots for our operating models, as Deborah mentioned briefly before she disappeared and reappeared. Welcome back, Deborah. It's about moving beyond pilots and AI. It's about creating additional detail and dynamism on the value that you measure through your organization, on the value that you deliver. It is about preparing your teams for different ways of working. So Engage Dallas, the important thing here is it will enable you and your teams to do a lot of things. For the next 20 minutes or so that we're talking, we'll drill into some of the content. But while you're joining us, we'll make sure that we drop in a link to the agenda. Please go take a look at the full conference agenda as it has been built for the team. All right, so we're going to hide the slides for a split second. And Deborah, I'm going to put you on the spot first because you mentioned it at the start of your introduction. As we think about when we were building this agenda and when we've been recruiting our speakers and when you've been developing custom research-based content and insight, what are the sort of execution challenges or the priorities that GBS leaders and your constituents face and that have led you to some of the content that we're gonna have at Engage? And as you're talking, we'll probably put up a slide that shares some of the session detail. But just curious of what are the pain points? What are you working on? How are we taking an approach to the future fit operating models, et cetera?
Well, I'm going to take this up a level. The GBS model as we know it is really 20 some years old. And if we step back and look at business 20 years ago versus today, it doesn't look very similar. I mean, even such things as bring your own device wasn't a thing 20 years ago. But the world has changed. The world has changed dramatically, but the GBS model has not. And the research that I'm conducting with Everest Group suggests that the model needs to change now, not only to better fit organization needs, but GBS could very well go the way of the dodo. Operating models come and they go. The value of a GBS operating model is it can pivot. The challenge for GBS is that it hasn't been pivoting. So those in the audience who will join us in Dallas will understand what the big pivots will be, but most importantly, what to do about them.
Yeah, and actually, as Deborah was talking, Rohit, Amy, you can jump in too. But on the screen, everyone, you can see Deborah and a couple of our colleagues, Eric Simonson, Rohit, and some other team, have been working on a net new, and I don't mean to sound hyperbolic, but a sort of groundbreaking workshop on what the sort of future operating models for GBS or this kind of term and these types of business functions may be. Deborah, anything you want to sort of sneak peek on? Hey, here's some interesting stuff that you're going to hear hot off the presses.
Well,
next month.
this is a debate in the industry, but Eric and I, through some fairly rigorous evaluation following a methodology called future casting, really believe that the role of GBS, you used the word at the tee up, execution. GBSs are no longer have to be the factory, the execution engine of the enterprise. They actually, if they take the challenge, are very well equipped to do much higher value work. So for those of you who are in Dallas, join us in the session to understand what that work is and how do you start to pivot your organization through organizational changes, through focus on where the value is actually released in a GBS model, to start to make the change to fundamentally ensure that extinction is not in the picture.
Yeah. And actually a good segue into some of the content and thought leadership that Rohit has influenced and is bringing to the agenda as well when it comes to our talent, our ways of working, our execution in the form of capability centers, etc. Rohit, curious, like your take on where we're bringing an execution focus to our GBS leaders, our GBS and GCC leaders, from your point of view.
Yeah, I want to just very quickly go to something that Deborah said, Mark, and how real and important this is becoming right now, right? We are talking about the GBS operating model, but what Deborah said, the business model itself has been changing and looks significantly different. I'm not at the liberty to name, but just this morning, I was talking to head of GBS for a large global enterprise, top 100 in the world, and they will very soon announce a new CXO level position of somebody who's going to look at how the business model will look differently. And Deborah, not to give away a lot, but I know one of your provocations is functions will not exist the way they exist today, and you'll have to look differently across the
Functional
organization.
delivery will not exist as
Functional delivery, right? So, and then they are bringing in that CXO position, reporting right into the chief revenue officer, chief growth officer of the company to look into that. And guess what? As soon as that position is formalized, GBS will be repositioned to report into that position, into that role. So the answers are not all there, but this is very real investigation. So I'm super excited about taking that. We're bringing this work to the clients.
Yeah.
Bringing it forward in terms of what you asked me about, the theme is execution curve. So absolutely, the businesses are operating differently. GBS operating model is changing and bound to change a lot more. So how we do things are changing. So 2 or 3 things that stand out is, one, the way companies look at redesigning their talent strategy. It's happening much more holistically at a grander scale and much faster. Everybody knows already, we've been talking about it through our thought leadership, that teams will be possibly smaller, differently shaped pyramids, different roles. But what exactly does that look like? How do you get there? We will have real case study with CHRO of company like Experian to talk about what they did and how they did it. I'm proud to be co-presenting that, combining the work we did and then the work they are doing on that front. Similarly, it's not on your slide here, Mark, but even in terms of AI transformation cannot be approached the same way other traditional transformations have been approached. It's moving faster at a different scale. So we have real case studies of practitioners co-presenting of how that is being approached and how what results are being delivered. And lastly, while we are talking a lot about mature GBSs, we track more than 10,000 in the world right now, but still they are expanding at rapid pace. Contrary to popular opinion, our latest analysis shows the year-on-year growth of GCCs, both in terms of number and adopters and scale, it's all increasing. So a lot of new setups are happening, but they're not happening the way they happened earlier, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. So the breakout that you see number 3 on the slide, 3 practitioners who we have worked with in the last 2 to 3 years to bring their stories of how they are building GCCs, GBS, but doing that very differently in context of how it's changing today. So again, I'll just emphasize what I'm absolutely excited about is, in addition to having the best of Everest Group research and SMEs, we are able to bring real client stories and real learnings to investigate into each of this with a focus on how to execute with a difference in today's
Yeah.
environment.
And that's actually an important point, a good segue to Amy and Amy's function in the strategic sourcing, the vendor management realm. We're going to bring up a slide that shows some of the content that we've got for our sourcing and vendor management leaders as well. But the important piece there that you said, right, like I think your words, Rohit, were contrary to maybe some public opinion or public belief. The continued growth and expansion of the more than 10,000 logos that we track it means meaningful impact to many of our strategic sourcing, vendor management, and IT operational and infrastructural leaders. So Amy, give us your take on the kind of key execution curve points from that side, from that lens.
Yeah, well, first let me say thanks for Deborah for making me feel old, because I remember when shared services became GBS, and that could not have been 20 years ago. I've been around a while in this space, and the evolution in the operating model shifts that Rohit and Deb are talking about is really relevant to everyone. So even some of our leaders that look across workforce or look across IT or use GCCs. They look at offshoring and outsourcing as different delivery, all part of their delivery model. These topics and these sessions, you have the opportunity to get immersed and learn a lot in both. From a sourcing standpoint, and the VMO people that I work with, they're really focused on the work that's delivered by a third party, an external party. And that has completely changed, or is in the process of changing, as we look at AI moving from pilot to execution, as we look at agentic and how service providers are using agentic. And by the way, most service providers are way ahead in using agents compared to where big companies are internally in their own delivery. So I heard the comment from a large Canadian bank a couple of weeks ago. He said, I'm cool if my service providers are getting 30% margin, but when they start getting 60%, we need to talk. Well, that time to talk is right now. Right? And that doesn't mean we don't want them to use agentic, use AI in the way that they deliver. It means that we need to rethink the way that we contract, the way that we manage them, the way we co-invest. The idea of an innovation fund being like some side thing, no, that's core to the business right now. We need to think about which providers we want to work with. If you have a BPO provider, they best be showing you how they're using tech to enable that delivery. Same as what's happening in GBS for internal, GCC level delivery. There's so much happening right now, and nearly every client I talk to is struggling to figure out how to navigate through that. We have the opportunity here to get analysts that are working on this at the bleeding edge, to get several clients that are in the middle of this or have already worked through a lot of these questions and have them talk, and then to have peers exchange, kind of their greatest challenges and their wins with each other. So I love Engage for that reason. I'm a people person. I like the high engagement of it, pun intended in the name. I know Mark is proud of that, but it really is how we work. A couple things on here that I think are particularly worth calling out. I see Ronak on my LinkedIn feed talking about the session that we're doing. We're doing an operating model session as well, more about how your sourcing, your vendor management, that operating model shifts as you work across the business. And most companies are moving, or many companies are moving towards more of a product operating model. IT has shifted the way that they interface with the business. Sourcing needs to follow that. A lot of sourcing organizations are behind in that and are still thinking savings instead of thinking, how do we enable the business? How do we enable the customer experience? How do we mitigate risk? How do we capture value? So that I think is going to be a great session. The first one here, redesigning commercial model, that's always the fan favorite, right? Pricing. It's going to be on Wednesday now. You're going to be able to do both. How's the business model changing, and how does the commercial model change? I know we also have a session on vendor management that really gets into how do you manage this. SaaS prices going crazy. I think everybody knows that their SaaS and their AI costs are going up, and we need to harness that. We need to manage that better. We also have a panel that's probably not on here yet, but really excited to have a couple of practitioners who are at different stages, but really in the midst of deciding which partners they work with and how that portfolio of providers is going to change. So there's so much. I know this is just 4 out of like 12 things I'm excited about. So Mark really forces us to pick, and it's not fair. They're all.
And if I may,
yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, if I may add, Mark, something that is hard to bring out in such a short conversation is Amy and I have been chatting how these stakeholders are working closer together than ever before. So a lot of our sourcing vendor management stakeholders are actively looking into building GBSs for their company, or how can they leverage GBSs for their company, in their company. On the other hand, GBS leaders are talking about how they don't need to do DIY themselves. How do they outsource more, leverage third parties more, so they're working more collaboratively. Almost all the outsourcing organizations have set up dedicated GBS focused or GCC focused businesses. And then they are building specialist capabilities to cater to them, not repackage what they did for other parts of business for the GCCs. So the entire ecosystem collaboration that very much needs to happen is very visible right now and progressing. So what I am also, I'm looking forward to is many of the conversations will not just silo the focus, but kind of stretch it across and look about those connection points and how to create more value together and how to reduce the friction. So those are some flavors that are hard to, bring out unless you get all these people together under a roof. And then I'm just super psyched that we are doing that at Engage.
Yeah, it's so true, Rohit. And I encourage people to bring a buddy. If you are coming from, if you're a head of IT sourcing, bring your colleague in IT or workforce strategy or contingent workforce or whatever that role is. Go to some sessions together, or divide and conquer. Go to different sessions, talk at the cocktail party about what you learned. It really is about engaging with analysts, engaging with your peers, but also engaging with your internal colleagues. The clients that I see get a lot out of this come with a group, and they connect on in a variety of topics that are, that cut across the different functional lines.
It's a good point. We've got about 6 minutes of content left. I meant to mention, please do put any questions for any of the speakers in the chat. Happy to answer some specific items. But from a content perspective, we did build and optimize the agenda, and we'll pull up a next slide to show a couple of the external keynote voices joining us. We have built and optimized this agenda for teams of people to attend. And as Rohit and Amy were just riffing back and forth on the concentric overlap between a more traditional sourcing or VM vendor management role and a shared services and GBS role continues to sort of coalesce. We've got some external voices, particularly the middle section that I want to call out, a series that we've created called Pragmatic Solutions, where we have a senior most leader for their function get on stage and actually give real dynamic sometimes pretty tactical action items for their colleagues to continue on the execution curve. So as it sounds, pragmatic solutions. Magella Mongovan from Meta talking about building skills and confidence in AI fluency across finance employees, so new ways of working. Joe Haynoski from Nationwide talking about how they've simplified their procurement process, leveraging technology without any risk. And AJ Wijasingi from Ecolab talking a really innovative AI and automation story in their GBS. So phenomenal external speakers like that. On the next slide as well, just as a highlight, some of our other external speakers speaking on the agenda. And this is one where Amy can call out why Rod Bourgeois,
Yeah.
an equity analyst, is such a great fit for
Yeah, Rod is great. A lot of people would be like, why do you have an equity analyst? So Rod specializes in the global services industry, good friend of the firm. I knew of Rod until, met him, really spent time with him 2 years ago when we had him at Engage, and he does a great job of talking about where the service provider market is, and right now where they're leaning in and where they're not. He just has a great perspective in terms of who you might want to hitch your wagon to. He's watching the horses in the ring every day in different ways than you or I. Like me, Mark, Rohit, we're looking from one view. Rod's got a completely different financial investment view, and I love hearing him talk. He really brings it all together. So that's what I'm excited about. There's a ton of other ones on here. I know Mark wants me to wrap up, but if anyone's curious or you take a look at the agenda and have ideas, questions for these speakers, please ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk to people about it.
And Deborah, just curious, any parting thoughts, any other colleagues or folks or topics on the agenda that are of keen interest to you? Always value your perspective.
Well, I guess I look across the board. The understanding what can happen is great, but what I'm excited about in this agenda is that there's really a focus on how. What do you do tomorrow? What are the minimum viable moves? Because inspiration in this industry, we're pretty long on inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But where the rubber meets the road, our industries don't always have the execution quotient that they should have. It doesn't mean that people don't want to do the work or don't want to make the change. They don't necessarily have the confidence and the know-how to do so. So the value of this conference is the fact that we are not letting people walk away without knowing what to do the next day.
Yep, that's it. And just for the audience, again, another live point. Deborah has a hard stop in 2 minutes. She's a very busy leader. Deborah, thank you for carving out some time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Rohit, any sort of parting comments from you? Again, audience, any questions? Rohit, Amy, and I can hang for a couple of minutes. Rohit, any comments? Any wrap up?
No, I'll just say this, that Engage is named Engage for many reasons. The most important is that this is not just a conference for people to come and attend sessions and take notes. That's part of the thing, learn something. But what we really want is the magic to come out when people talk to each other. Open yourself, talk about problems. Your peers have the same problems. Maybe you have some solutions they can learn from, and the other way around. So Everest Group, day in and day out, we are helping our clients in all ways we can. This is our kind of commitment to amplify that by making you all learn from each other as well. So as Amy said, bring a buddy, think cross-functional, but come with an open mind, clear your agenda, attend the sessions, network, talk, learn, share, and I am sure we'll have a great time.
It is, there is, I've been in the events business for 25 years. Now more than ever, face-to-face is as important as it gets. right? We have the opportunity to collaborate on keen subject matter expertise, on partner challenges and issues, understanding opportunities. It is thanks to AI and the latest technical opportunities, face to face is more important than ever. And so we do appreciate all of you that plan to join us. Rohit mentioned it, and Amy, I promise I'll give it to you for some parting shots as well. Right, Engage. Actually, they both mentioned it. Engage is named Engage for a reason. And Everest Group, we often refer to engagement is a superpower of ours. Rohitashwa's team, Amy's team, and the rest of our I see Ronik and Kiara and others on the chat. Everest Group has a phenomenal wealth of subject matter expertise. We bring that to Engage. We partner it with external practitioner expertise, like some of the speakers we were showing on screen. We mix in a little bit of third-party service provider expertise, because a lot of times some of the greatest innovation can come from them. And we create many different session formats and interaction opportunities. So really do encourage all of you to make sure that you're in Dallas for that program. Amy, anything that you want to add before we let folks head out?
I mean, I think you guys have all said it well, and I can go on for a lot longer, but I do hope to see everyone in Dallas. Again, great agenda, great lineup. Please come so that we can, we can offer the opportunity for all of the interaction that this brings. It's exciting for us.
So one last reminder, we're going to pop a QR code up on the screen here, offering any of you submit that form, and we'll give you a $200 off voucher for the Engage conference. Rohitashwa, Amy, Deborah, and all of your teams, and so many of the other folks, including Chiara Travasano, who collaborates to build this agenda and phenomenal experience that we have. Take a look at the agenda that we shared on the website. Make sure that it is a fit for you. We would love to see you there if you do see the fit. And until October 5th, the three of us send you our very best well wishes. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you in Dallas.
We're still live. We're waiting for Dan, everyone. If you're still on, you're waiting for the post-credit roll.
I know. Wait for the.
I shouldn't be doing this.
There's always
We're
a
ready to end.
Somebody has to end this.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm watching that count clock. It's climbing.
Hey, everybody, take
down.
care. I know we're still recording.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Ta-da.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.